Hi friends, this is Caitlin. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how my first time went making a Lawn Fawn Pull and Pop Pull Tab card. So this is what the dies look like. These are brand new from Lawn Fawn. The new release came out about a week ago and I got them in the mail and could not wait to create with them. I also grabbed the Elephant Parade add-on, which is this sweet little stamp set, and I just wanted to show you when I get them in the mail, the first thing I do is add a little magnet strip to the die backing and put them all in one little sleeve. It's so much easier, and I just reuse the packaging it came in. I'm also going to be adding in the new Henry Jr.'s ABCs. This is so cute. This is what I ended up making my own custom sentiment out of. And then I am also using the Stripes and Sprinkles paper pack, which I guess was a part of a Lawn Fawn kit a while ago, but they re-released on its own. And for the grass, I'm bringing in my favorite watercolor Wishes, just the original one, and we'll be cutting a grassy border with that. And then I brought in some old favorites. So this is the Rain Backdrop Landscape cover die, and then I also have the thought bubbles, but we're going to be using them to make some storm clouds today. This is my practice one. I just wanted to show you I did it with printer paper first to test it out. So before we jump in, if you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, because we are always doing something fun over here. So for my backdrop, I'm starting off with my regular card base. And I am going to cut a piece of this navy cardstock down to be a normal A2 sized card panel, so 5.5 by 4.25. And then I took that lighter blue with the polka dot background from the Stripes and Sprinkles, and I'm trimming that down. That's what I'm going to cut my rain backdrop from. So this way that navy blue will kind of peek through as our little raindrops. I just thought this was so cute. So I am going to adhere them together now. I decided that would be the easiest before cutting out the slots that are needed for the pull tab. And all I had to do was run the whole thing through my die cutting machine about 3 times back and forth, and it cut through both layers just fine. So to do that, the first thing I have to do is cut apart all of these dies. My little snips are actually broken, but you can see they're still doing their job. They're not doing it great, but they are doing it. I really need to add getting new snips to my next shopping list. So I am taking that die that cuts the slits and taping it about in the center of my card panel. You can see the tape is really stuck on because I ran it through the machine so many times. It was really in there, but I just used my little pokey tool and those 2 little cuts came out super easily. Nothing was stuck. So that was a lot more simple than I thought it was going to be. And now I'm cutting my pull tab out of that same navy paper just to help it kind of blend in. In hindsight, I probably should have cut this from the raindrop, or covered it maybe in the raindrop, but the problem was that I needed a long piece and the raindrop paper wasn't long enough to do that for the pull tab. So sometimes you might have to get a little creative, but I also think it looks completely fine once the clouds are on top of it. So I'm probably overthinking it anyway. Lawn Fawn shared a tip to use a ruler to help make your fold, and that did make it a lot easier. So you just kind of place it along your score line and use the ruler to push up against while you're folding your paper to keep everything nice and straight. And from the back, you just insert the pull tab so that the notches, those small notches, kind of go through, and then the longer section should be hanging out from the bottom of your card. So I also cut this little support piece out of a scrap from that navy cardstock as well. You glue that so that the little square is facing your project, and then adhere that tab part down. I am not trying to necessarily teach you how to do this whole mechanism, so if you need more detail or need to see it slower or more times, definitely please check out the Lawn Fawn introduction video. I'll leave a link down in the description box below. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, although it would be a dream too. So if anybody from Lawn Fawn ever sees this, keep me on your list. But I just wanted to show you how I interpreted my first time using this set. and share just an inspiration project with you basically, but also to show you how stinking easy this one is. I have done a lot of interactive cards with Lawn Fawn dies before, and this one is probably the easiest one that I've used. It's much more simple than I thought it was going to be. So once I had my tab in there, I had marked out about the height I wanted my grassy layer to be, and then I just trimmed that down with that grassy border die. Then I'm going to go in with the little die that comes with the pull tab to cut the notch in the bottom. And this was when I decided that I wanted to create a cover for my pull tab out of the grass as well, which I love that they give you this option of something that's made for that. In their videos, they tell you just to slide this up into that slot to cover your pull tab, but it would not work for me. It would not go in. I don't know if it's because I had the double layer background, but I found that I could just pull the tab out through the back because I hadn't adhered my grassy panel in yet, and then just tuck it right back in, and that was so much easier. So if you have that problem or that struggle, definitely consider doing that. And then you add your tape kind of in a little C shape. So you basically just want to avoid putting any tape or glue around the mechanism or the pull tab itself so that everything can move really freely. So I'm going to take a piece of heavyweight white cardstock. I'm going to make my card base. This is definitely one that needs a card base to function properly. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I am notorious for not making a whole card, but just making a card front that I will put onto a card base later. This is not a die that you can do that with. You absolutely need a card base to hold that mechanism where it's supposed to be in the back so that you get the proper pop-up when you pull, right? Pop and pull, pull and pop. There we go. So now that that's in place, you can see I double check that I glued it in the right direction. If I hadn't, to tell you the truth, I would have just kept going because at this point there was no turning back. And I used the other half of my white cardstock that I didn't use for my card base to cut out my thought bubbles, which are now going to become clouds. And I also cut a scrap into a rectangular shape, which we're going to be adding to the back just to really give a little bit of support and help hold everything in place, because this mechanism isn't necessarily made for multiple pieces. It was made for one piece in mind from what I can tell, but by adding that little rectangle to the back to make sure that these two pieces kind of act like they're just one piece, it worked out perfectly fine. So I went in with a little bit of the new Lost Shadow ink from, oh my gosh, Distress ink from Tim Holtz, and I am just going around the edges. I wanted these to look like rain clouds, but I didn't want them to look so dark that they were scary, because this is actually going to be a baby shower card for one of my best friends. She's having her second child, and so we're going to have a sprinkle for her next month. So this is going to be her baby shower card, baby sprinkle card, if you will. And so I showed you before, I did a test run with just printer paper on these clouds to make sure that the sentiment I was thinking of would fit with the Henry Jr.'s ABCs. So I'm stamping out the "We're showering this baby with love" onto my clouds, and I'm using the Lawn Fawn River Rock Gray ink to do that. I just thought it would be nice and soft to have a darker gray versus a black, but you could obviously use whatever inks make you happy. And these were so simple to line up. I was very concerned about the time it was going to take me to stamp all of this out, and they're all of the letters. Let me rephrase that. All of the stamps are made so that they're the same height regardless of what the letter is. So they're so easy to line up on your table and then just pick up with your acrylic block and stamp. I cannot recommend these enough. I've been holding off on getting a stamp set like this, an alpha set. I have alpha dies, but not stamps. And now I'm regretting waiting this long because this was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. So I will be using these a lot in the future, especially when now I know I can create something like this that really stands out and is a statement and lets my sentiment really be the focus. instead of having to have the scene always be the focus. It's just really nice to change it up. So on my little cloud, I adhered that down with some tape runner to start, and I'm stamping the love with the Catherine Pooler Cranberry Fizz ink, which is new to me. I just got the Luxe ink pack, like variety mini pack. I hope to play with them more. This is the first time I've used one, and so far so good, but it was also just stamping, so I would hope so. So I lined up that little love so that it really fits well and it covers a good amount of space. And now you can see I'm adding that rectangle again, just to kind of act as a bridge between those two. And I really added a ton of tape to my mechanism because that's the only part that's going to be holding these clouds in place. And I pushed that down and gave it a test. And there you go, it's popping up. So for the little scene we're going to create under the clouds, I am using this little elephant from the Elephant Parade add-on. And I shaded in his little ear, and we'll go back and give him matching blush. And I went in with some cool gray markers, again, just kind of feeding off of the color story from the blue background and the gray clouds. And so I really just wanted a nice cool gray for him. And I wanted to keep him a little on the lighter side. So I didn't add in any super dark markers. That C5 was just enough to give me the definition and contrast I was looking for. So I went C5, C3, C1, and I'm just taking my time blending them out. Lawn Fawn was one of the first stamp companies that I purchased from, and I loved it because while I was learning to Copic color and practicing my coloring, their images are definitely more on the simple side, and they give you a good bit of room. So you don't have to stress as much about being super precise, and it gives you a nicer chance to practice your blending because you have more room to pull out your colors. So if you are somebody who is either just starting out or wants to practice Copic coloring or work on blending and shading and figuring out where shadows would be, Lawn Fawn would definitely be a company I would recommend for you to look at their images because they are on the more simple side. They're super cute and give a really nice impact, but the drawings themselves are more simple, so you won't get caught up in teeny tiny details and you can really focus on your actual coloring skills. For all of my little accessories that I'm adding into my scene, I have the umbrella, which was the reason that I wanted to use the stamp set from the beginning for this card, and then these two little pinwheels, and I grabbed reds and blues that I thought tied in really well with the red in the love sentiment and that blue rainy background. I just thought it was so cute. My friend is having a boy, but I also think that if we did, these colors or added in a little bit of yellow for like a more primary feel, it could be a completely gender neutral card and would work well for any kind of baby shower that you might need, or even a gender reveal would be super fun. So I cut those images out with my coordinating dies, and then I just kept the scene underneath really simple. The only thing I knew that I wanted was for my images to be completely hidden under the clouds when the mechanism was closed. So I kind of gently set my elephant in place, closed the clouds, and then just kind of shifted him as for the furthest down that I could without him poking out of the bottom. And then I kind of did the same thing with the umbrella. I added the umbrella in and then just kind of adjusted from there. I thought that I had it in a good place, but you'll see I end up kind of zhuzhing it around a little bit. This is definitely one that you want to be able to play with. So I did like that I used the dot adhesive, which doesn't cure immediately, versus like a liquid glue or some super strong immediately permanent adhesive, because this really let me play around with where everything was going to go and make sure that everything was angled correctly. So that I didn't know if this pinwheel was going to go on the left hand side. I ended up moving it to kind of the center to balance out the weight of having the elephant over on one side. And then I realized my umbrella was sticking out of the top of the cloud, so that had to be shifted around. It was a little bit of a journey, but in the scheme of things, it really wasn't that bad. It was not difficult at all. It was literally just kind of zhuzhing everything around until I was happy with it. And if you don't mind that some of your elements poke out, or maybe you want them to peek out as a different effect, this would have been even easier. So I am so in love with how this turned out. I hope this takes any fear or nervousness you might have about using an interactive die like this away for you. Like I said, this was one of the easiest ones that I've ever put together. I will definitely be doing more cards with this pull and pop pull up tab card in the future. And if you have any questions or requests, definitely leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. I hope that you have the most amazing week. And as always, happy crafting.